The Charles E. Kubly Foundation initiated the Young Leaders Council 1 year ago. We had been in contact with all of the members prior to its formation. Most of them reached out to us based on a family loss, personal experience with depression, and ultimately because they wanted to make a difference with their peers in mental wellness. The statistics for the age group of 18 to 30-year-olds and depression and anxiety are very real and staggering. We look to this council to make connection through their peers and community with social media sharing, unique fundraising, and awareness events. Their creative ways of connection will help break down stigma, share opportunities for mental wellness, and help with the mission of the foundation. Here are several members discussing the YLC and their involvement. The board and I are so grateful for what they have done to date and everything that they have planned for the future. They have already made an incredible difference. Thanks to all of them.
Hi everybody, my name is Kristen Rick. I live in West Bend. I work in procurement supply chain for a healthcare company. I have 2 dogs, Henry and Millie, and I have been helping out with the Charles E. Kubly Foundation for several years. I heard about it first from my mother-in-law, Kristen Rick, who has been held several different positions within the Kubly Foundation throughout the years. So I wanted to get involved and be a part of the YLC since I experienced anxiety and depression myself. I think the first time I really experienced it was after college graduation, when you're entering the real world and there's a lot of unknowns and changes happening. So I really feel close to the subject of mental health and anxiety and depression. And I know everybody fights their own battles, and it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to look for help elsewhere if you can't find it within your immediate circle. And I think the Kubly Foundation does a great job expanding it and creating that conversation around mental health. And I hope that with the YLC, we can expand it into the younger age group and continue the conversations and continue doing things within the community. I think speaking up and I guess using social media to have a voice within this demographic is a big deal. I'm super excited to be posting about it and talking with everybody and having people understand what the Kubly Foundation actually does and helps with. It's super important to me, and I really enjoy everybody that I've worked with here, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. I think understanding anxiety and depression from my side, it makes me more empathetic to people, not necessarily understanding everybody's story, knowing that they're fighting their own battle, and any conversation that they're willing to have or wanting to talk. If they don't even want to talk, just being around them and helping them through whatever I can really gives me a sense of completion and understanding. And I think that supporting that and helping others is something that I want to continue doing. So I'm really excited to be a part, and I can't wait. Bye, everybody.
Hi, my name's Lily Kubly. I'm originally from the Milwaukee area. However, I moved to Chicago about 4 years ago. I currently work in advertising at an agency here in Chicago, and I have been for about 3 years now. So how did I hear about the Charles E. Kubly Foundation? Well, since I am a part of the Kubly family, I have been around since the start. I was about 10 years old when my Uncle Charlie passed away. I've been attending the fundraisers pretty much since the start. I remember when it was first at the zoo, and seeing how much we've grown has been so rewarding. I got involved about 4 or so years ago, kind of right as I was graduating college. I had an idea to start a fundraiser kind of aimed at young adults. And kind of since then we've continued expanding, and then that's kind of what got us into the creation of the council, which has been really rewarding. I feel very strongly that understanding anxiety and depression has helped me to see other people's behavior differently. I think it's kind of like another layer underneath what you see from the outside when you understand that people may have mental illness underneath. And although you shouldn't be excusing certain behaviors, I do think that there's always more than meets the eye when you're interacting with someone. And I think it's really important to take into account that mental illness does affect people and how they interact with others. So the first time I kind of remember experiencing a mental health concern was honestly when my Uncle Charlie died. I was about 10 years old at the time, and I had no idea what mental health was, obviously. I really had no understanding into what suicide was, and I really didn't know that he died that way for a little bit of time. But when I began to understand and it was revealed to me how he died, that was the first time I really understood that someone can hurt so badly that they don't want to be here anymore. I think that was a very intense and powerful way to discover that. And I was extremely lost at the time. I think, my family was going through a lot, and it was hard to, explain that to a 10-year-old. And I think I really was incredibly lost and not asking questions because it was so hurt. My family was so hurt and struggling at the time. So I think I didn't really even think to ask questions. And I think I was lost for a really long time on that, especially. But it's also given me kind of a strong, a strong insight into mental health from a really young age. And I do think that that's kind of caused me to grow up and look at things a little differently in terms of mental health. I do think there's a huge gap in mental health care with schools and educators. I do think there's a lot of room for improvement with how we work with students in mental health. I think especially graduating college or even in college, I think that for myself graduating, what I notice in my peers and my friends and whatnot is that when people graduate college especially, there's kind of this you're kind of just cut loose. And I know so many people who really, really struggled with their mental health for years after graduating college. I think there could be things such as check-ins and whatnot. And I think this goes for more than just college. I think even high school, but especially when you're paying to go to a university, I think that could be a service that would be really useful. Being able to support and share the mission of the foundation is so incredibly rewarding to me, especially being a part of the Kubley family and knowing Charlie personally. Kind of being able to create this long-lasting impact in the community has been just so awesome. It's hard to put into words really, and being more involved in the foundation now has just been it's so heartwarming to see all these people who share the same mission as we do, and to see firsthand how we're impacting the community is just it's hard to put into words. So I'm very grateful.
Hey everyone, my name is Colin Fritz. I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I currently spend my time between Milwaukee and Chicago as I do work for a financial tech firm down here in Chicago in the business development side of things. During my free time, I enjoy golfing, playing hockey, hanging out with friends and my girlfriend, and do really enjoy traveling. I've been involved with the Charles E. Kubley Foundation for quite some time now. Charlie was my mom's youngest brother, and I was his oldest nephew, so I did have the good fortune of knowing him pretty well back in the day. As a result, I have volunteered in countless fundraisers we've thrown throughout the years. And in the last year or so, picked up a more prominent role joining the Young Leaders Council, which has been doing a lot of great work since our inception. The first time I experienced a mental health concern dates back to my Uncle Charlie taking his life back when I was in 6th grade. I think at the time, the idea of depression and suicide was very foreign to me. I was very confused, had a lot of questions, and from there I think ultimately had a lot of feelings pouring over myself that I was really not accustomed to. I think at that young age, you're not really sure why you're feeling this way. You're not used to having maybe some of these feelings. You don't know how to cope with them. did really lean on my family as well as therapy to really help me get back to a place where I felt I was in a good headspace. I think at that age, you do have some embarrassment around the idea of feeling this way and ultimately going to therapy, things of that nature. From there, I think in my older age, I have had a few more kind of mental bouts and really have appreciated the fact that I, through a lot of the work the foundation has done, have felt very comfortable reaching out to others for help. I think, I found one of the biggest things that helps me is my core group of friends who, I have no problem turning to when I'm not feeling myself. I think we really have an open door policy, and I always try to preach to them, having these feelings of depression, anxiety, etc., they're very normal, and I don't think it's anything anyone should be ashamed of. And do preach to my friends, I'm always here if you need to talk to someone. Sometimes the best way to kind of get these feelings off your chest is to open up. It's never good to let them kind of fester in your head and continue to build up from there. So I think that's really one of the biggest things I've learned too throughout the years. One of the things the foundation really preaches is eliminating the stigma that comes with mental health, both depression and anxiety. I think as we grow older and as it becomes more and more talked about, we realize really how many of us, either on a large scale or a small scale, are dealing with it. I do absolutely think there should be more focus on mental health and mental wellness early on in school. Looking back at myself, I think, again, first time having some of these feelings of depression date back to 6th grade. At the time, I knew little to nothing about depression, didn't know, why I was feeling this way, how to ultimately cope with it. And I think, even more prevalent in today's world with social media and some of this virtual bullying, unfortunately, I think we do see more of these younger children with some of these feelings and, stressing that it's not uncommon to have these feelings and that you really shouldn't be ashamed of. I think that's something that's very important to teach students at a younger age. It really means a lot to me to be able to continue to share and support the mission of the Charles E. Kubley Foundation. I give my family so much credit for turning a terrible tragedy and losing Charlie into something that has really taken off and made a difference in so many people's lives. You can see it here with all the support we have from people. We see these same faces every year. I think when it comes to mental health, whether you're suffering, whether someone's suffering, it really does touch so many lives. And the more we can do to eliminate the stigma associated with mental health, not being afraid to reach out to others, not being afraid to seek treatment, to seek help, the more lives we're ultimately going to save out there. I think at the end of the day, that's the core mission of what we seek to accomplish here at the Charles E. Kubley Foundation.
Hi, my name is Mitchell Lindstrom. I am a member on the Young Leaders Council for the Charles Kubley Foundation. I got involved with mental health awareness, suicide awareness through the way I think, unfortunately, a lot of people get involved, and that's that it's something that affects them personally. I unfortunately lost some family members to suicide, and also have some family members that are struggling with mental health, and it's not one of those topics you really discuss until I feel like it's something you're involved in or something that affects you. So when I found out about the Charles Kubley Foundation, I thought, what better way to get involved in an organization that strives to put an end to the stigma about talking about mental health and suicide and how it affects loved ones, how it affects our community, and in particular, being a young male in my early 30s, how stigmatized the discussion is for getting help or going to therapy or asking and reaching out to your friends and family saying, hey, I'm not feeling great, I need somebody to talk to, I need a resource.
Hi, my name is Monica Quinnell. I'm 33 years old. I live in West Bend, Wisconsin. I'm a student right now at UW Milwaukee in the Clinical Mental Health Counseling program, and I'm also interning at a private practice as a therapist in training, and I'll be working on obtaining my postgraduate hours so that I can become a licensed professional counselor. I first learned about the Charles Cooley Foundation from a friend of mine who works in the nonprofit sector, and I was actually interested in finding a nonprofit that was working towards fighting depression and eliminating the stigma. And I asked my friend if she knew of any place that was doing work in the mental health field, and she mentioned the Cooley Foundation to me, and I looked it up, and I thought they were doing some really great things, and I wanted to be a part of that. When is the first time that you experienced a mental health crisis, either in yourself or in someone else? The first time that I experienced a mental health crisis was when I was about 16 years old. My brother was really sick and he was in the hospital for about a month. And at the same time, my mom and dad were going through a divorce. And this time was especially difficult for my mom. And she ended up losing her job during this time. She was drinking a lot more. There were days where she wasn't getting out of bed. And I just remember being very upset and frustrated. I didn't understand why she couldn't get up and go to work some days. And that was the first time that I got to really see how debilitating depression can be. I definitely think that schools could do more to educate their students on mental wellness, and I think the workplace could do more to provide a better work-life balance for employees and promote mental wellness. And I think just as individuals, we can do more to educate ourselves. And, there's so many books and podcasts and videos and magazines on wellness. And I think the more we learn and the more that, we work on ourselves, the better able we'll be to be able to help others and, keep fighting depression and keep fighting suicide and keep trucking.
Hi, I'm Katie Fremolt. I'm originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I currently live in Chicago, Illinois, and I work in advertising. I had a friend in high school, and we went to college together too, and he was the funniest kid ever. He was amazing. He loved to smile and laugh, and he was the light of every party. There wasn't anyone who ever met him who didn't love him. And that's probably why it was so earth-shattering and devastating when he died by suicide my junior year. His family asked for donations to the Cooley Foundation, and I decided, we had a community of people who loved him so much, and we all wanted to do something. So I started planning a couple fundraisers and having people donate, Venmo me, and then I would donate all the money to the Cooley Foundation. And eventually I knew Lily from high school, and I got connected with Chris just from my fundraising and started kind of coming into contact with them. I did this for my last year of college and my first year that I started out in Chicago. And then Lily had this really opportunity for me to be on the Young Leaders Board. Something that my friend dying by suicide taught me is how really bad the stigma around mental health and suicide is, how insensitive and hard it was to talk about to people. And I wanted to talk about it, but it seemed to make people feel really uncomfortable, and it made me uncomfortable. It made me shy away from saying the word suicide, and eventually I got really sick of that. I got sick of tiptoeing around something that had affected me so greatly and clearly really affected my friend. And that is basically the beginning of how I got started with the Cooley Foundation. And learning about depression and anxiety also made me realize that I had been struggling a lot in myself, and I didn't want to talk about it, I didn't want to tell people because I also had felt that stigma. It didn't feel real. It felt like something that you could just personally get over, and that it wasn't actually like an illness. And I'm so thankful for my time with the Cooley Foundation because it's really made me feel heard, and it's made me feel so much more comfortable talking about the way that I feel and speaking up about depression and anxiety has made me realize how many other people are struggling and are too scared to talk about it. So I think that the work that the Kublai Foundation does really makes a difference in so many people's lives.